Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. As you know, I am Mike Monteforte of Monteforte Law. I am excited about our podcast guest today. It's a good friend and colleague of mine, Nate Amendola. Nate and I met through a marketing group that he and I are both a part of. As people that listen to the podcast know, we have lots of attorneys on from the marketing group that we're part of. It's a pretty close-knit group of really great lawyers. So Nate, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I know we were talking before we hit the recorder that you're crazy busy, which is a good thing, but I appreciate you taking a little extra time out to talk to me and come on the podcast today. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. Really, really glad to be here. I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. Me too. So what I like to do is just kind of start with a bit of an introduction for you so that clients of mine that know me and listen to our podcast can get to know you a little bit. So if you wouldn't mind telling us and my listeners who you are, what you do, a little bit about your firm and about your work, that'd be a great way to start.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. So I am a criminal defense lawyer. I defend people who have found themselves at the wrong place at the wrong time. I definitely do represent some, I don't want to label them criminals, but people who have lengthy criminal records and really get caught with some serious crimes. But a lot of my folks are also just normal, everyday people who have just had a bad day and find themselves in the crosshairs of the law. And so I help them untangle their legal problems relative to the Commonwealth, because the Commonwealth is who's prosecuting the crimes.
Right.
I help them resolve their crimes. The other thing that we do, and I say we'll talk a little bit about this, I do have a small team here, but we also, lots of our folks come to us with in extremis, with a lot of anxiety because many of these people have not been arrested before, and it's really scary. And if you look at crimes are prescribed by statute, so if you look at the statute of a crime, all of them say jail. Lots of them say jail time, not more than 2.5 years in the house, and they say, oh my God, I've been charged with something, I'm going to jail. Right. And that's sometimes that's the case.
Sure.
But a lot of the times it's not, and so people get really nervous. And so one of the things that we do is we help them understand from, I think, sort of a psychological or spiritual component, how to alleviate some of that stress and some of that anxiety. So there's, I'm certainly not a therapist, but a large part of my job, it's on the one hand, it's resolving their underlying crimes.
Right.
And then the other, it's shepherding them through the process of, what it's like to deal with uncertainty.
Yeah, I totally get it, because I think about if I were in that position, like you said, this is scary stuff, especially if you know enough to kind of know a little bit about the law or look at the statutes and that sort of thing. And it can certainly be frightening because your liberty and life are on the line here. So I think if I were in those shoes, that's the part of it I think that I would need, as you say.
Yeah.
And I say the same thing. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a counselor, but clients that come to see me, especially elder law clients, they're confused, they don't know what to do, they dealing with maybe a sick parent, that sort of thing, and they don't know what their options are, and it's scary stuff. So I say the same thing. I'm not a therapist, but part of what I try and do is ease that burden. And I think if I were coming to you, that's what I would need first and foremost, because I'd be an ass.
Yeah, people just want relief, right? A relief from the pressure, a relief valve. And a lot of the times I don't have all the answers because there's a lot of uncertainty in what I do. But just knowing that there's somebody there that genuinely cares, and I absolutely love this stuff, and I think people could tell that. Having somebody that really cares and that is going to help them through the process, I think makes things a lot easier. And that's something we take really seriously every year, because there's a lot of good criminal defense lawyers out there. There really are. Massachusetts, is famous for its criminal defense lawyers. I think what makes us a little bit different is that sort of value add that we bring to our clients, helping them through the process and helping them deal with the uncertainty and the anguish.
Yeah, and I think that being able to bring that empathy towards this sort of thing, especially, you mentioned your team, part of what I kind of preach to my team every day is remember when these people call us, they're not necessarily having the best day.
Yeah.
Right? It might not be the best day of their lives because, their mom's got dementia, somebody's sick,
Yeah.
they don't know what to do. So I can imagine, again, the people calling you and they're scared and confused, needing to feel a little bit of that, empathy and that caring that you were just talking about, because they're not having a great day when they call you, right?
No, exactly. I would say people are literally calling me at their worst, and they're confused, and it's hard for them. I think sometimes they either tell me too much, too little, and they don't even really know where to start. And a lot of these people haven't dealt with a lawyer before or haven't dealt with a criminal lawyer before. And so we really want that experience for them to be, and I know you, because we're part of the same sort of mastermind, so to speak. I know you have the same thesis on this. We want these people, our clients, to from day one, we're a white glove service, right? And we want them to feel at home and comfortable with us. And and again, they're calling me at their worst.
Yeah.
And I've got to constantly remind myself of that, and it's hard because I can go from call to call to call, with people who this issue is the most acute, the most serious thing for them.
Right.
And it's certainly easy to get calloused to this. I'm not, but you could just go from call to call to call, and but you got to realize that these people are having a really difficult time. And that makes it hard. And I don't know about for you, Mike, but I assume because you're dealing with, as you mentioned, people who might have dementia or Alzheimer's, or people who are calling you not at their best. That wears on us. That wears on me.
Sure.
And I was, my wife and I closed on a house last week, and I was in the real estate, the conveyancing attorney's office, who's in my town of Hingham. And he said, "Man, how do you do this? I would be up all night worrying about whether a client's going to be going to jail."
Yeah.
And he's right. I mean, this stuff is, I'm a father. So when I have a client call me, and most of my folks are men. I think, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think men probably account for most of the crimes. And then they tell me they're a father, and they're worried about, how is this going to affect the children? I'm the sole caretaker. I'm the sole breadwinner. I've got a 2-year-old kid at home. I mean, that stuff is really heavy on me.
Sure.
That really weighs. And so, my problems in a sense become their problems in a way. And so I've had to figure out ways to learn to deal with that stuff, and you and I haven't talked about this yet, but it's sort of all over my website. I'm really deep into, if I can talk about this a little bit here, but I'm really deep into Buddhist and Stoic philosophy, and that stuff, because I'm not perfect. I too have suffered and
Right.
had some difficult times. Who hasn't,
Right.
And that's, when I got really deep into that stuff, it really helped, and continued. I mean, I meditate every day. It continues to help me with that. And so we really,
fantastic.
yeah. And so we really try to, we're certainly not trying to push anything on people, but we really try to tune them into this, to philosophy and meditation, and because we practice it every day, and it makes a huge difference.
I love that, because really there is kind of that fine line, that tightrope, where if I let it affect me too much and I'm taking it home, and I'm trying to be present with my kids and with my wife, and I'm worrying about what's going on with clients, well, that's not necessarily healthy for me or healthy for them.
Yeah.
At the same time, when you mention going call to call to call, but you don't want to go the other way where you're numb to it and you don't feel anything for it. So it's trying to keep that balance of feeling for what they're going through and having that empathy, not being numb to it, but at the same time not being overtaken by it either.
it's the middle path.
Yeah.
Talking about Buddhism, it's the middle path, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. And I could be up all night. I mean, I have clients in custody right now, and I have clients who are facing significant charges.
Right.
Clients who may be, if I can help it, but who may be incarcerated. And what you realize is a lot of these. Again, we could talk about the philosophy behind crime for a long time, but
Right.
it's easy. I think before I started this work, it was, oh, look, this guy's selling drugs on the street. He should be put away. And this is I don't feel like this way now, and it's easy, I think, to these people have been arrested. Of course, they've done it. Well, that's not always the case, and the circumstances around their arrest or around their them being charged, it's sad. Things are very difficult out there for a lot of people, and things really aren't fair, right? And I'm not a police hater. There's some great police officers,
yeah,
and there's some really bad ones,
right?
And it's really difficult, particularly for people who are brown and black. It's really hard.
Did you kind of from the beginning, clients of mine that are familiar with my journey, I didn't set out to be an elder law attorney and estate planning attorney. It's something that happened over a period of time. Was this something that you knew right away that these are the folks I want to help, or is it something that kind of developed over time? How did you kind of decide to go that way and make this your life's work?
Well, it sounds like you and I were on similar paths.
Okay. This
definitely happened gradually over time. And I did not start off this way. I have made this a conscious decision. This is now, I do a little bit of real estate litigation, but this is now this is probably 98% of my practice.
Okay.
And I have consciously decided just to do criminal defense. But I started at a huge international law firm in Boston after I graduated from law school. And I had no idea in law school that I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a corporate litigator, doing the big, sexy, litigation cases, that were, all over the news or, all over the business world. And now I don't represent any corporations, right? I just represent people. And this is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. What's good about that, and it's something that I've kind of found along the way as well with what I do, there's so many changes in regulations and in laws. I deal with Medicaid, that sort of thing changes all the time. So to be good at it, you really have to focus on it. So if I'm coming to see you and I'm trying to figure out, do I want to try and come to some sort of deal or plead down a case, or do I want to go to trial with this? I need somebody that's going to tell me, no BS, don't sugarcoat it. Just these are the consequences if we do one or the other. And so the fact that, this is what you do and it's really all you do, I think gives you kind of a unique insight into being able to give that advice, because that's what I would need, is that, the advice.
Yeah, I feel really strongly about this. I have a mentor in my office who is quite a bit older, and he and I have this debate a lot, and he is genuinely one of the best lawyers I know, and he can do a little bit of everything and do it well. Divorce, real estate work, corporate work, litigation. I think at some point he did criminal work. Now, maybe he's an outlier, but I really think, I really think one needs to specialize. If you want to be excellent at something, and I want to be excellent, I want to be like you, world class, a top performer. Michael Phelps, he just came to mind, is probably one of the most decorated swimmers in history, if not the most.
Right, I think the most.
He doesn't swim and play badminton, professionally, right? I'm sure he's a good athlete, but you pick one thing. Right. And I really feel strongly about that. Think about if you have a medical problem, God forbid you've got a heart problem. you're going to a cardiologist, a heart
Right.
surgeon who only works on hearts. I really feel like that's the same thing with the law. I mean, yes, there are certainly people that can do,
Right.
a couple different things. I know, I have, there are lots of criminal defense lawyers who do personal injury and
Sure.
divorce work. And look, I get it. And some of, they're very good at that, but I really think you got to niche down. You just do one thing and you get really, really good at it.
Yeah, I think, I knew myself, and for the number of, continuing education classes and things like that I have to do to stay on top of the regulations just in my field, if I tried to expand that, I think I'd be in class all day, every
Yeah.
day, and would never have any time to work. So, there are folks that can do it. I knew right away, for me to be good at this, I need to focus on this. It requires too much time for me to devote to other things. But it served me, and I think it's the same way with you. That's what I'd be looking for. Again, when my life is on the line, my freedom is on the line. I want somebody
Yeah.
that, hey, this is what you do day in and day out, and is going to be able, in the best position to give me advice. So, throw some examples at me, right? So I know you do criminal defense.
Yeah.
Throw me like a few, nuggets of different kind of cases that you handle, so that again, trying to fill in clients of mine to know, okay, criminal defense, what does that mean? What type of cases are we talking about?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. So I will do everything from murders down to OUIs, what Massachusetts calls DUIs. It's operating under the influence.
Sure.
The whole and that so murder is obviously the most serious, right? I mean, OUI is still serious, but in between that spectrum, there are theft cases, there are cases of rape and sort of personal offenses, assault and batteries. There are drug cases, or obviously with the drug epidemic, drug cases are really common. I think the most common thing that I see come across my desk, I see a lot of um, assault and battery on a family member, and we'll
Okay.
talk a little bit about that in a second. But I think the most common crimes in Massachusetts, and this is just anecdotal, but are probably assault and batteries.
Okay.
OUIs are really, really common too.
Sure.
So I'll talk about those two. Assault and battery. Those are actually two different crimes. You may remember from your law school days. Yeah. Assault is essentially, a threat to commit a crime. Mike, I'm going to punch you, and I'm about to do this, right? That's an assault. A battery is the unpermitted, unconsented to touching, right? And so there's a lot of that, and what I also see a lot of in Massachusetts is assault and battery with a dangerous weapon.
Okay.
And that's so assault and battery is a felony. I'm sorry, a misdemeanor. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon is a felony. But Mike, I mean, I'm going to just pick a couple things up right now. I've got a calculator here. This can be considered a dangerous weapon. I've got my iPod's case. The Commonwealth could probably make a case that this is a dangerous weapon. Same with the pen. I mean, a tissue, the joke is a piece of tissue can be a dangerous weapon, because if you use it in a dangerous way, if you hit somebody, it's a dangerous weapon. So I see a lot of that, and usually that's in the domestic violence context of two spouses, or girlfriend and boyfriend, or two girlfriends, whatever, are having an argument, and things get a little bit heated. Maybe somebody pushes somebody out of the way. Maybe somebody does punch somebody.
Right.
I mean, you see that.
Sure.
And then the police are called, and next thing you know, you're charged with a crime.
Did you see any, with what the world's been going through for the past year and a half, especially kind of our early days, COVID, when, we were on a lot more, kind of a lockdown than what we are now, and people were really stuck home and quarantining together. Did you notice, or was there, I was curious about this, kind of an uptick in those type of cases, because now you've got people that are stuck, together, nowhere to go, and, can't walk out the door to, necessarily to cool off. Was it, same as always, or did you notice more of that?
No, I think I definitely noticed a lot more of that, pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of OUIs. And then, with people staying home and driving less, that I really saw that go down.
Okay.
And my practice with other crimes, particularly these sort of assault offenses, definitely ticked up. And I'm seeing, I probably get, I probably get, 5 to 8 calls a week, maybe even more with those types of crimes.
Yeah.
And some of them are really serious, right? And some of them aren't. Some of them are just people getting in an argument. Look, no one should ever touch somebody without their consent, but things just get heated and
They do.
They lose control quickly. So, and then the OUI, the operation under the influence, is also a very common crime in Massachusetts, and I certainly don't condone drinking and driving. It's not illegal to have drinks and then drive. You just can't be impaired. And lots of people, will go out to dinner and have a glass or two of wine. And look, there are lots of people that get arrested, after having done that. And, maybe they're really not that impaired, but the officer thinks they are, because all the officer has to have is probable cause to believe that out in the field. So, a couple things that maybe you and some of your listeners should think about. Again, I'm certainly not condoning drunk driving at all.
No, but if you're going to deliver some inside baseball here,
yeah.
I want it.
Yeah. So here's what you want to do with police encounters, I think. Okay, particularly when you're driving. The first rule I think you always want to have is, this is my opinion. Even if you don't think you did anything wrong, you want to be very, very polite to the police. Okay. I can't tell you the number of police reports I've read. I pulled Johnny over and he was a complete asshole.
Yeah. See?
Right?
Crazy to me.
Right. And people do it. Oh, what'd you pull me over for? I wasn't doing anything wrong. And maybe that's true. Right. But what's one of the, officer notes down, smelled a slight odor of alcoholic beverage and was belligerent. Right. Because he's angry. And I've been drunk before. You've certainly seen drunk people. What do drunk people? How do they act? Belligerent, right? So even if you're not drunk and you're acting like that, it's not good. So you got to maintain your composure and be very, very polite. Okay. But here's the thing I would say: if you're driving, we're talking about driving right now, and you see the cruiser lights behind you. You want to, when it's safe, you want to engage you're going to turn off to the right. So you're going to want to engage your blinker, turn off slowly to the right, and pull in safely straight along the side of the road. Okay. You want to put your car in park. Okay. Roll down your window halfway, take the keys out of the ignition and put them on the dashboard. Okay. This is you're showing that you're law enforcement friendly. Okay. Because the car's off now. Keep both hands on 10 and 2. Okay. And this is going to show the officer that the car's not on, right? So you're not a threat to leave, and then he or she can see your hands. Okay. You're not going to be looking for weapons. Okay. And then I think from there, it's just some common sense. I think you want to be polite, right? A lot of times an officer will ask you, hey, where are you coming from? Or do you know why I pulled you over? Or, what's going on? And you don't want to lie to a police officer, but I think a lot of people get themselves in trouble and try to talk themselves out of things. You are under no obligation to talk to a police officer, right? What I tell people is, if you've had a couple drinks, and you're not drunk, so 1 to 2 drinks, you're in the danger zone if you've been pulled over, because if an officer smells alcohol, he's going to ask you to get out of the car to do the field sobriety tests. Right. And I tell people to respectfully decline those tests, which you can do. I don't think people understand that, but
they definitely do not. So
yeah, they don't. You can respectfully decline those tests, and you can respectfully decline the breathalyzer. Now, there are consequences to both of those things. Okay. If you decline the breathalyzer, you're going to lose your license. Okay. If it's your first offense, it's going to be 180 days. And if you refuse to take the field sobriety test, you better believe you're going to get arrested. It's going to happen. But if there's going to be a lot less evidence that the Commonwealth can use to convict you if you decline both of those things.
Okay.
So that's what I tell people. Police encounters, just be respectful, because a lot, they're going to write a report after their encounter with you, and you just want you want the police officer to know either that you were respectful or nothing at all, because that's better than saying like you're an asshole. I hope I can swear on this podcast.
You can.
Okay, good. And a lot of these officers now have body cams or cruiser cams, and so you just want people are going to be watching what you're doing,
right?
But it's tricky, and an officer's job can be really difficult, right? There's a lot of danger involved in that, and so they don't know that you're a nice guy, who just was out to dinner with his wife.
Right. They don't know that. You.
Right? They don't know you. Right. So you just want to be really respectful and careful.
Yeah, I think even just I've been pulled over in my life a handful of times.
Yeah, me too.
And I've had to resist that urge to say, well, I wasn't doing anything, and instead, no, be polite, respectful, and I feel like I have a lot, not that I ever want to try and talk myself, out of anything or anything, but just explaining myself in a calm manner is a heck of a lot better than, letting my temper get the best of me and flying off the handle, because, like you said, drunk people tend to be loud and belligerent. And that's got to be a red flag for these officers that do this day in and day out. And you're setting yourself up for harm if you go at it, that way.
I think so too. And there, as we're talking about this, reminds me there are these two brothers out of California who, this is back maybe some years ago when cannabis was illegal in California, and they were like the cannabis guys, and they had these funny YouTube bits, and their advice to people is always shut the F up, right? That's, I'm saying, when you talk to police, be respectful and polite, but really, that advice, shut the F up. I don't really think I don't think it's a good idea to talk to the police, because whatever you say, they are going to write down, right? And so you might hurt yourself into, in your future defense, whatever it is, whether it's self-defense or something else. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. So I always think, really invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege and be silent.
Agreed. And you mentioned too, if you're kind of in the danger zone and you refuse some of these tests, there may be consequences to that, right? And having to be arrested, but that doesn't mean you're automatically going to be convicted.
Exactly.
Evidence is it's a different thing, right? They don't have those breathalyzer results to use if you're in court on this thing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You've just limited their, now basically the only thing that can convict you on is the officer's observations, as opposed to your performance in the field sobriety test, which, and maybe you and I could do another podcast on this, they're really difficult, right? And it's really hard to pass these things. And we could talk about this. This is not the time, but
sure.
You're gonna probably fail them. Even people say to me all the time, I couldn't do that when I was sober.
Right. I can't say the alphabet backwards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you're nervous, and there's flashing blue lights behind you, and there's cars whizzing by, and what did the officer say I was supposed to do? Was it 9 steps out or 11? And and then if you ask him about that, he's going to put that in the report.
That's part of
it. Mike, that's part of it. Well, Mike couldn't follow directions. He had to ask me several times how many steps he was supposed to take. I'm nervous. I couldn't remember. There's cars going by. You're talking too much. They're really, frankly, not fair. I'm not sure there's a better way to do it. People should definitely not be driving while impaired, but it's stacked against you. So you really don't want to give them any.
Yeah, I get that, especially if that happens to you and you're pulled over, say, and you're near home. who's driving by that knows me
Totally.
to go tell, so and so tomorrow, hey, I just saw him on 40 over on Glen Road, but getting pulled over doing a sobriety test, so
Exactly. Yeah. And look, people of all stripes get pulled over. Doctors, lawyers, and this stuff can be really difficult for people in their career. So again, I don't want to. I'm certainly not anti-police, but I feel really strongly. We have rights.
right.
We are all born with, and I think that's what drew me to this is on a philosophical level. We are all of us are born with the same set of rights and freedoms. And it is a big deal to have the government try to take that away from you. I mean, can you imagine that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine not being able to see your kids? And that's a big deal.
Yeah. It automatically becomes the biggest thing that's happening in their lives at that moment. No matter what was happening before, all of a sudden, this is the most important thing that's going on in my life, right now, because like you said, being unable to see your kids and family, I couldn't imagine it. So it's,
it's really scary for folks. And I think about that all the time. And, you got to take this stuff really seriously.
Agreed. Walk me through, so I've got a situation where, client has, some sort of contact with the police, or they're going to be charged with something. Process wise, how do they, is a call to you, calling into the office, is that step one for them to be able to get in touch with you and talk with you about what's going on?
Yeah, you've asked a great question. I will try to answer it succinctly. Crimes, or you're going to come into contact with police in really one of three ways. Either you're going to be arrested, at the scene of a crime, no UI, or something the police have witnessed. Right. I don't want to get too deep into this, but police have to witness a crime generally to arrest you for a misdemeanor at least. Okay. And so you're either going to have been arrested, or something will have happened, maybe like a theft crime or something. I don't know, maybe somebody stole I don't know, something out of a store. The police are going to do an investigation, and you're going to get what's called a summons. You're going to get Mike Monteforte, appear at the Malden District Court at 9 o'clock for an arraignment, right? And you're going to have notice of that, right? And so or the third way is you're going to be subject to an investigation, where the police will call and say, hey, we're investigating a crime. So I'll take those briefly in turn. If you have time and you've been arrested, and you usually do, especially if it's a weekend, you usually, especially now with COVID, you might have a couple of days to appear. Sometimes you got to appear that morning. Okay. But yeah, we've got a 24-hour answering service. And I'll give you that information at the end. But you should definitely call because you want to show up to court with a lawyer. Now they will appoint you a lawyer if you can't afford one, or there's a question of bail. But you want to go with a lawyer. Okay. If you've been summoned to court and you usually have some time, you definitely, as soon as you get that notice, you want to call a lawyer. And that lawyer should, everything's confidential, as when you have a discussion with your clients, even if you don't end up getting hired, right. Whatever you talk about, the privilege attaches, and that's confidential.
Right. We can't talk about it. We can't tell anyone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important. I start the same call. The call is the same way every day. Hi, nice to meet you. I'd ask you how you're doing, but I'm sure this is a difficult time for you right now. Before you start, sir, I'd just like to tell you, whatever you tell me is strictly confidential. Even if you don't end up hiring me, anything that you did in the past, I don't care. It's safe with me. Anything you're going to do in the future, that's not safe. All so, right. Don't tell me about the guy you're going to kill, because I got to report that. But if you killed somebody, that's safe, right? And the third way is these, and I do a lot of this now, police investigations. Hey, I've the police have called me. They're going to ask me some questions about a party I was at, or some incident at a store, or a fight, or whatever it is. And again, I think it's a good idea to call a lawyer at that point, because even if you think you're innocent, and maybe you are, you'd be surprised how quickly and easily people become ensnared in ambiguous circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's the police know if you show up with a lawyer, it doesn't mean, people think this all the time. If I show up with a lawyer, they're going to know I did it, or they're going to think I did it.
I'm guilty.
Yeah, no, you're somebody who's smart, or who's exercising his or her right, to have counsel.
Yeah.
And things get off the rails really quickly and really easily. People step in it all the time, for lack of a better phrase. And so it's a good idea to call as soon as you know there's trouble afoot. And again, and nobody thinks they're a criminal, right? And they're not, right? But stuff happens.
Sure.
I'll give you. I'm just kind of making this up here, but you're driving home. You're texting while you're driving. You're distracted. You slam into somebody. Well, guess what? That's negligent operation.
Yeah.
You're going to be charged with negligence. That's a misdemeanor. And God forbid you injure somebody. Right. Now it's not, maybe there's a felony charge there, and you're just a normal person driving home from work.
Right.
It happens every day.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you're right. I mean, giving the advice of, okay, once you've got this whether it's because they want to talk to you about, or investigating something, I think you have to be nuts to show up to any of this stuff without a lawyer. And then
I think so.
You have to protect yourself. Doesn't mean you're guilty.
No,
it means like you said, it means you're smart, and you have to protect yourself, and that's how to do it, is having someone there that knows and can counsel you about what to say or not to say, and just give that advice, because like you said, people step in it all the time because they don't know to talk, to not talk, and they need somebody to tell them what to do. I know I would. So it's I think you'd be out of your mind to show up at any of these things without having an attorney there for you.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. As you're saying that, it reminds me, I love funk music, and James Brown, who is a godfather of funk, his trombonist was this guy named Fred Wesley. And if anybody's heard James Brown tunes, you've heard Fred Wesley. And Fred Wesley, I watched him give an interview once. He said, "Funk is not what you play; it's what you don't play." And the same thing is when you're in the crosshairs of the law. It's not what you say; it's what you don't say. Right? You don't want to say things. So
I love that. I love that. We do a lot of celebrity estate blogs. We write about different celebs and what's their estates look like. And I did one about James Brown probably a year or two ago. Yeah, talking about his family and a little bit of fighting going on there with with the Godfather of Souls.
I think I remember hearing that.
So
well, and look,
funny that you mentioned it. All right. First of all, for people that just want to find out more information about you, maybe they don't. Not in need of a criminal attorney right now, but it's always good to have somebody's name and number in their back pocket if they just want to find out a little bit about you or find out some information. I know I've been on your website. You have a great website. Good friend of mine, Tom Foster, that does my website, does yours as well. So it looks fantastic, but there's information there for people to just want to learn a little more. So what's a website we can direct any of our listeners to come on and find out more about you, about what you do?
Thank you for the comments on the website. It is, I'm currently building, it's up and running. It's beautiful. As you know, I'm always adding to it. The idea is that folks, it is a wellspring of information on crimes and philosophy and how to deal with sticky situations. But my website is www. It's my last name, Amendola, AMENDOLA, LLC.com. So like Danny Amendola, there's no relation, but Amendola, LLC.com.
He's a little bit shorter than you, I
think. He is. People, you look at me and like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm very large. You can't tell what I'm saying down, but Danny's much smaller.
Right.
We go, my firm is Nate Amendola Defense, but the website is amendolallc.com. And our number, and this is monitored 24/7, 781-740-0800. And you will be able to get in touch with us. Of course, we've got the email, the chat, and everything on the website. But Amendola LLC is what you want to look for when you're on the interwebs.
Perfect. And I'm going to be able to get you with that number when they pull me over in the middle of the night. That number is monitored. So
yeah. It's monitored 24/7 now. It's 3 a.m. I'm sleeping, but
yeah, of course.
but you're going to have someone's going to pick up. We've got a really sophisticated answering service. It's awesome. It's somebody live. They're going to take down some information, and I'm going to get that to my cell phone immediately. I get a special ding. Look at it. This happens. Okay. And I'll be right there with you.
Awesome. All right. I love it. Thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it. I know you're busy, but thanks so much for taking the time. This was great. Very informative. Even though I'm a lawyer and people think that means I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, but honestly, when it comes to, again, dealing with whether it's being pulled over and that sort of thing, I have no idea. So that was super informative for me as well. I appreciate it so much.
You're so welcome. I'm so grateful that you've invited me on. I too will be having a podcast soon. This is your invitation. Once I get something running, Mike, I'd love to have you on. You could tell my clan about estate planning and what you do.
Awesome. Count me in, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, Mike. Thank you, man. Take care now. Bye-bye.